From outdoor workers sweating through double shifts to pregnant slum dwellers, one power cut away from a health crisis. Heat waves in India have long taken a heavy toll on the most vulnerable. On August 4th, the centre formally recognized heat waves as a notified natural calamity, unlocking dedicated funds for states to protect those most at risk. Officials say the move could reshape both the funding available for heatwave response and how measures are implemented on the ground.
There would be a broader recognition of various climatic factors that contribute to the rise in temperature and the corresponding measures at the local level to reduce the impact of the rise in temperature. It wants to improve the provision of various kinds of support that improve thermal comfort in public places. We have a certain amount of resources that could be invested in these interventions.
Until now, states could tap only a limited share of disaster funds for heat waves. Now, that cap has been lifted. But funding is only part of the story. Experts say the real cost of extreme heat has long gone unmeasured, affecting India's economy as heavily as its people.
A lot of the workforce is going to continue to work outdoors in the open, whether it's in our farmlands or in our cities building infrastructure and buildings. Heat stress, therefore, is not just a climatic event, it's an economic calamity because it impacts the productivity of our workforce. We also have to take care of the informal labor force, which is a very large share of our labor force, because if they don't come within the radar of our response measures, then they too remain invisible, even though they are so critical to the Indian economy.
With outdoor and informal workers bearing the brunt, doctors say the health toll of extreme heat is deeply tied to poverty, and tackling one means addressing the other.
There is something called as poverty and health cycle, poor health cycle, where for accessing health, for accessing better health, people spend most of the money from out of pocket, So in this way, if we provide assistance in the form of financial assistance or some rehabilitation measure through the state sponsorship schemes, then that definitely not only elevate the economic status of the affected individual, as well as that will prevent the financial deprivation. We will move towards a climate resilient health system so that we can treat the heat impact of health very, very efficiently.
On the ground, that means moving beyond simply adding more heat action plans to ensuring they are properly funded, locally driven, and effectively implemented. Experts point to global precedent, drawing parallels with how disaster recognition helped transform India's response to COVID-19.
What happened during COVID is the notification that gave it an identity as a disaster, and that's how the entire system came into the place and started working in a coordination. That's what we can take, for example, heat also. While the heat action plans or heat wave were not notified as a disaster at a national level, there were certain states, for example, around 11-12 states in India that had notified heat wave as a local disaster. But the gap was the coherence between the policies, guidelines and framework at a national and sub-national level. Now with this notification, there is no confusion that heat wave is a notified disaster across the country. There has to be frameworks which NRDC has been supporting at a national and sub-national agency, which can help in implementing the heat action plan.
With summers growing longer and hotter, and millions of outdoor workers, slum dwellers and vulnerable families at risk, this notification marks a shift from treating heat waves as an afterthought to confronting them as the disaster they've always been.
Europe is burning. Roads, tram tracks are melting. Public is out jumping into lakes, rivers, fountains, and whatever water they can find. Sprinklers and even water cannons are being used on the roads to cool down the commuters. More than 1,300 people have lost their lives since June 21. Global warming is real, and this is a live example of it. As shocking videos have gone viral, the internet is divided. A comparison is being drawn with India, a country that experiences such extreme weather conditions for almost half the year now. But is this comparison really justified? 40 degrees Celsius is not normal in countries like Germany and Czech Republic. And in India, 40 degrees is just the beginning of the summer. Many are praising the infrastructure in India and criticizing the European structures. But is infrastructure really the factor driving the intensity of the heat in Europe? Or is it something else? What makes 40 degrees Celsius in India different from the same temperature in Europe? And most importantly, is Indian infrastructure really climate change proof? Let's first understand why Europe is witnessing such a disastrous summer. The 2026 Europe heat wave is caused by several factors. These include atmospheric and circulation patterns that keep the hot air trapped for days, not allowing the temperature to go down. Basically, heat waves occur when high pressure systems settle over a region, working as lids that trap the heat, just like the vapors that get trapped when you cover the boiling water with a lid. On a larger scale, the answer is obvious: climate change, global warming, burning of fossil fuels, and more. All such activities have been changing weather patterns in general. Reports also suggest that this heat wave is driven by the omega block effect. This pattern is like the Greek letter omega. A bulging ridge of high pressure traps heat over a region while cooler conditions persist along its edges. The UN has warned that Europe is the fastest warming continent on Earth, heating at twice the global average. With the internet divided, the question is, how are Europe's conditions different from India? Well, there are several factors. A major one is the use of ACs. In houses across Europe, you will not generally find air conditioners, while in India, the AC market is huge. That's because of the massive difference in average temperatures. For the longest time, Europe has expressed an aversion to air conditioning. A long-standing belief in France is that continued exposure to cold air can make you sick. Reports suggest that only a fifth of European households have ACs. Compared to Asia and North America, the numbers are tiny. The climate also plays a major role in deciding on the architecture of a place. Experts suggest that in countries like England and France, homes act as furnaces designed to trap heat. Because the temperature throughout the year do not usually go so high, buildings are designed for freezing cold, which is more common. Many call the houses thermal batteries, as they retain heat during the day and slowly release it during the night. Longer daylight hours is another reason why this Europe heat is different. During summer, Europe experiences significantly longer days compared to India. Just Google it and you will find the difference. Have you ever seen the sun at 9 p.m. in India? No, right? But that's a regular feature for Germany, France, Spain, or the UK. Humidity is another major factor. Well, this can be true for any humid region, but it cannot be ignored in this comparison. Let's take an example of Britain. It is surrounded by Atlantic Ocean and several seas, so major metropolitan hubs like London can see humidity go up to 40%. This extra moisture makes a huge difference. The primary cooling mechanism of the body is sweating and the evaporation of the sweat. But that process slows down as humidity increases. That's why you get more sweat when it's humid. As far as Indian infrastructure goes, remember, we are talking about extreme weather conditions. So just take a moment to think, what if it starts snowing in New Delhi? For the rich, with their heaters and options of work from home, nothing changes apart from an opportunity for some reels. However, for the millions of masses, it immediately turns into a life and death situation. So even though the internet is drawing comparison, the geography, lifestyle, and architecture of these two regions are completely different. We'll keep you updated with all the latest news from India and across the world. I'm Manav Bansal signing off. Stay tuned and keep watching Times Now Digital.